People remember Bea Arthur as a sharp-witted icon of television, a woman who always held her head high, delivered razor-sharp lines, and never seemed intimidated by anyone. But behind the dazzling success of those classic sitcoms lay a secret buried for decades. Throughout her life, she lived a double existence that stood in complete contrast to the image she presented to the public. No one, not even her closest co-stars, ever suspected the hidden corners of her life or the bold choices she quietly made away from the spotlight. Only now, as the mist of time has finally begun to lift, has the truth about this remarkable woman truly come to light, and it will completely change the way you see this legendary figure. To understand the true impact of the secrets Bea Arthur carried throughout her life, one must first look beyond the formidable fortress she unconsciously built around herself. A fortress of perfection and seeming invulnerability. On television, Bea Arthur was far more than an actress. She was a commanding presence. Audiences remember her as the sharp-tongued yet warm-hearted Dorothy Zbornak, or the fiercely intelligent and unwavering Maud Findlay. Her lines, delivered in that unmistakable, deep, husky voice with razor-like precision, always had the power to silence anyone standing opposite her. People laughed with her, admired her extraordinary natural talent, and gradually confined her within a fixed image, a bold, proud star who belonged entirely to the brilliance of the spotlight. To millions of viewers, Bea seemed so strong that no sorrow could ever touch her, and no tears could ever fall. But few realized that this celebrated icon was in truth nothing more than a suit of armor forged from countless hidden fears and deeply buried wounds. Away from the cameras, the line separating Bea Arthur, the television star, from Bernice Frankel, the woman carrying countless private burdens, was drawn with remarkable severity. She created an absolute distance between herself and the world. While other performers sought comfort in glamorous parties or the glow of the stage to fill their loneliness, Bea chose instead to retreat, close the dressing room door behind her, and surround herself with a wall of quiet isolation. That tough, indifferent, and at times intimidating exterior was not her natural personality, but her ultimate means of self-protection. She deliberately exaggerated her sharpness in real life so that no one would dare come too close, and no one would have the courage to peel back the mask and touch the wounds still quietly bleeding beneath it. Every time she walked away from the studio and slipped out of her character's costume, Bea disappeared into a silence that felt almost suffocating. She embraced loneliness like a bitter lifelong companion, choosing to conceal every emotional storm and every deeply personal hurt. The louder the laughter echoed across the soundstage, the deeper and more painful the silence behind the scenes became. She performed so convincingly that even after the screen went dark, the world continued to believe that this extraordinary woman was somehow untouched by life's fiercest storms. In 1943, as the Second World War entered one of its most intense periods, Bea Arthur made a decision that surprised many by voluntarily joining the United States Marine Corps. Rather than choosing the safer path expected of a middle-class young woman at the time, she stepped into an environment of uncompromising discipline and took on essential logistical and administrative duties. Yet behind the pride of wearing the military uniform, she chose to keep this remarkable chapter of her life almost entirely private, rarely revealing to anyone the years she had spent serving with determination and resilience. That extraordinary silence was not an attempt to conceal wrongdoing, but rather her way of protecting a deeply personal part of her life from the constant scrutiny of the spotlight. After rising to the very top of Hollywood's acting world, Bea's life continued to be divided between two astonishingly different realities. By day, she faced the relentless pressure of demanding filming schedules and the dazzling glare of red carpet appearances under the polished image of a sophisticated and confident star. But once night fell, she quietly devoted her wealth and influence to supporting the rights of the LGBTQ+ community and helping homeless military veterans struggling to rebuild their lives. These acts of quiet compassion remained almost entirely beyond the reach of the media, making her a genuine hero, hidden behind the public image of a sitcom queen. With remarkable self-discipline, Bea Arthur successfully maintained this double life for decades, without allowing even the slightest crack to appear before the public. On one side stood the legendary comedy icon who brought laughter to millions of television viewers. On the other was a quietly dedicated humanitarian whose heart overflowed with compassion. Even the colleagues who worked beside her every day knew nothing of this extraordinary side of her life, believing that her reserved nature off-screen represented her true personality. Only as the veil of secrecy gradually lifted with time did people begin to realize that behind the sharp wit of a television legend was a life filled with quiet acts of generosity that never sought recognition or fame. To withstand the world behind such an uncompromising emotional shield, Bea Arthur ultimately paid a heavy price with her own inner peace. The world saw only a brilliant comedian who could answer anything with intelligent wit and biting humor, forgetting that those who laugh the loudest often carry the deepest wounds. From an early age, Bernice Frankel's height of over 5 feet 10 inches and her solid build made her the subject of constant attention and someone who seemed different in the eyes of her peers. In the society of the 1930s and 1940s, where the ideal of feminine beauty demanded delicacy and fragility, Bea's appearance felt like a painful contradiction that forced her to quietly swallow her tears of hurt and embarrassment. That youthful insecurity about her appearance gradually shaped an exceptionally sensitive soul, compelling her to build an emotional fortress so cold and impenetrable that no one would ever be able to come close enough to wound her again. As she entered the unforgiving world of entertainment, those emotional wounds did not fade. They only deepened through her family life and marriages. One relationship after another came to an end, most notably her marriage to the talented director Gene Saks, leaving her with emotional voids that even the height of fame could not fill. How could romance survive when the woman herself was so strong, so fiercely independent, and utterly unwilling to let anyone see her vulnerability or moments of helplessness? The pressures of raising children on her own, while navigating an ever-changing artistic career, only pushed her deeper into an overwhelming sense of loneliness, even at the very center of the spotlight. There were nights when, after the studio lights had gone dark and the audience's thunderous applause had faded into silence, Bea would return to the emptiness of her own home. There was no heavy stage makeup and no brilliantly written lines prepared by scriptwriters, only a woman left alone to face herself in suffocating darkness. Her inner anxieties slowly consumed her, from the fear of growing old and being forgotten to her greatest fear of all, that the world might one day see the fragile heart hidden beneath her proud exterior. It was this constant inner conflict and these unspoken sorrows that shaped a very different Bea Arthur, a woman whose soul bore countless scars, yet who chose to greet the world with a restrained smile that carried both strength and quiet defiance. It was not until the final years of her life and the period following her passing, when boxes of personal keepsakes, private journals, and military records were finally opened, that the world truly realized the extent of the secrets Bea Arthur had kept hidden. The phrase, "until now," was not merely a dramatic expression, but a painful acknowledgement that we had overlooked one of the most important chapters of this legendary woman's life. Previously unseen family documents and handwritten notes revealed an entirely different portrait. A woman who was not simply private, but who carried concerns about humanity far greater than anything the public had ever debated about her television career. Within those journals, Bea laid bare her deepest thoughts, her most complicated relationships, and even decisions she quietly made that stood in contrast to the social conventions of her time. She wrote about hidden aspects of her emotional life, the lasting pain of her childhood, and the inner struggles of carrying the weight of fame, all with a style that was both sharp and profoundly moving. She did not write with the intention of one day revealing these pages to the world or seeking public sympathy. She wrote only to speak honestly with herself and preserve truths that the glamorous life surrounding her could never contain. The existence of these documents became a long-awaited answer to a life that had always been layered with carefully guarded secrets. As those hidden truths gradually became known to the public and the media, the first reaction from those who had worked closely alongside her was one of stunned disbelief. Veteran co-stars and directors who had spent years with Bea openly admitted that they had never truly known the woman they had called a colleague. They had seen only the sharp exterior and the emotional distance she deliberately maintained, remaining completely unaware of the remarkable soul beneath it, a compassionate humanitarian who sought no recognition, and a military veteran whose service had remained largely unknown. Rather than diminishing the image of the queen of sitcoms, these revelations gave her life even greater depth, transforming Bea Arthur from a beloved entertainment icon into one of the most fascinating and dignified figures in American cultural history. When the curtain finally fell on a life filled with carefully guarded identities and hidden truths, what remained in the hearts of her admirers was not simply surprise, but profound respect. Bea Arthur lived life on her own uncompromising and dignified terms, where the laughter she brought to television audiences represented only the visible tip of an extraordinary life, built upon compassion, sacrifice, and unwavering resilience. She chose to leave the spotlight exactly as she had lived for decades, quietly, privately, and without ever asking the world to fully understand either the burdens she carried or the greatness she embodied. In the end, the glamour of Hollywood was only one chapter in the extraordinarily rich journey of a woman who had lived through the challenges of wartime, struggled with deep personal insecurities, and quietly changed the lives of countless vulnerable people away from public attention. What she left behind reached far beyond the legacy of a sitcom icon or even the honor of an Emmy Award. It stood as lasting proof of a remarkable individual who remained true to her deeply held convictions until her very last breath. And now, as the final pieces of her story have come to light, the public's image of Bea Arthur has not diminished, but become more complete and more vivid than ever before. She was not only a legend who brought laughter into people's lives, but also an extraordinary mystery, a proud rose with thorns, whose quiet legacy will continue to endure throughout the history of the entertainment world. What do you think about the mysterious life and the little-known chapters of the legendary Bea Arthur's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow and share this article so you can join us as we continue exploring the most remarkable and deeply moving behind-the-scenes stories hidden beneath the glamour of Hollywood's greatest icons.